Like, comment, and subscribe. Hey, it's Ashley, and I'm back with episode 111 of the web novel of Marry My Husband. Let me just say, I've already read ahead, and it gets good. But what's happened so far? Suman caused Minwon's mom to have a heart attack. Minwon found out himself by getting embarrassed by his friends that he has asuspermia, which means he's, what is it? Infertile women. He ain't got no sperm, basically. So his swimmers that do swim are basically dead. He's shooting blanks. That's the word I'm looking for. He's shooting blanks without having to get a vasectomy. Suman is forced to take care of Minwon's mom that she caused to get hurt. Jiwon found Ji-hyuk, who ran away to Jiwon's father's grave. And she found out that he's also living his second life. And so what else? Joran, her chemotherapy went well. So that's where we are so far. I hope I did not drop any spoilers. I don't think I did, but let's get into chapter 111, The Twisted Wheel. I'm back from work. Jiwon came back from working late in the office, and as soon as she stepped through the entrance, a small, plump ball of fur ran over, hopping into her arms. Meow. I know, I'm sorry. It's so late, right? Meow. Where's Daddy? Jiwon searched the house while carrying Pang. Then she remembered that she talked to Ji-hyuk on the phone earlier. Senu successfully delivered the package. Are you certain? Yes, he delivered it to him in person. I'm certain. Thank you. I'm going to be working till late today. Go ahead and go to bed. Don't wait up. She really must have been busy. She'd forgotten all about the phone call from a few hours ago. Jiwon sighed and neatly arranged the shoes she'd taken off. Even though there was an extra person and a cat, her house looked cleaner than it had been when just Jiwon lived there. The living room, bathroom, and even the entrance were clean, without a speck of dust, and there was a pleasant scent in the air. Jiwon looked around the house like it was new to her. When she discovered the post on the fridge, she smiled. It read, I wasn't sure when you'd be home, so I made something simple. Inside the fridge were ingredients that were now organized by category. There was a sandwich that Ji-hyuk made and a carton of soy milk. You're even busier than me. Jiwon chowed down on the sandwich with mashed potatoes, cheese, and bacon inside. Then she opened her bag. When she turned her phone back on, there was a missed call and a text message. The call was from Minwon, and the text was from Suman. That's strange. Minwon should have called several times at least. I thought for sure. That's why I turned it off. Confused, Jiwon opened the unread text. Suman's message made her question what she was reading. Suman, yay, my husband is taking me on a trip because of all the work I've been doing. What? Jiwon was so shocked she swallowed a huge chunk of the sandwich and rushed to drink some water. She couldn't help but be bewildered. Other than the fact that Minwon was not the type of person to gift his wife a trip for working hard, he also should have received the delivery she'd sent. A trip out of the blue? What is Minwon thinking? It was a different scenario from the one she'd been planning. Jiwon stared hard at the text and closed her eyes. The events from the past that she'd sent to the back of her memory started to come alive, one by one. Jiwon had stomach cancer in her previous life. This time, Joran had stomach cancer. Jiwon married Minwon and went through hell with her in-laws. This time, Sumin married Minwon and had to endure her in-laws. Minwon's stocks left him in ruins and he was sitting on a pile of loans. That was the same in this life. Minwon cheated with his wife's friend. This time, he also cheated with his wife's friend. Jiwon's memory went deeper, past the old living room of the apartment and to the front of the bedroom door. Let's take out the deposit and move. Jiwon easily guessed what was said, but then she heard something that she hadn't back then. Once Jiwon's dead, let's take out the deposit and move. The deposit here can't be that much. I want to live in a new apartment, babe. Of course we will. Let's sign for a house as soon as we get the insurance. How much is the insurance? 500 million won. Jiwon's eyes snapped open. The past and the present were connected once more. Minwon had signed up for significant life insurance under his wife's name. He would have done the same this time. Then he killed his wife. Jiwon closed her eyes again. The memory of her death clouded her mind. Her glasses that she'd fumbled to find were bent. She saw Minwon's face full of disgust in the middle of the tilted bedroom. She wore a raggedy cardigan on top of a thin patient gown, hiding her shaved head with a blue knitted hat as she glared at her husband over her broken glasses and screamed bloody murder. I'm going to take you down with me when I die. Your parents and you too. I won't go down that easily. That was the last bloody wish of a woman who had led a lonely, desolate life before she was murdered by her husband. Whew. Despite the cold and thin clothes, the side of Minwon's face was soaked with sweat. The shirt he was wearing and the work gloves on his hands were full of grease stains. Screech! Screech! The sound of metal turning scratched his ears. It was an unpleasant sound, but it didn't bother him too much. All done. Minwon finished his work and stretched his arms and legs. He started the engine and pressed the brakes to test it. It moved well. As he expected, the seatbelt on the passenger side didn't pull properly, like something was caught. Okay, it's perfect. Minwon took off his gloves, tossing them carelessly into the glove compartment, and took out his cigarettes. The lid of the cigarette box was crumpled up, and inside there was one cigarette and a lighter. The last one, fuck. Still, it felt good to smoke at the end of such a strenuous job. Minwon finished his cigarette inside the car. Usually he didn't smoke in the car because of the smell, but this car was going to be wrecked soon, so it didn't matter. Thanks for everything, you piece of shit. Bye. Minwon tossed the cigarette butt out the window, tapped the steering wheel, and got out of the car. The lighter he'd just used fell from his pocket onto the floor. So annoying. He didn't even bother bending down. Minwon glanced at the lighter that had rolled to the front of the pedal and locked the door. It would all end tomorrow. Sumin, the crazy bitch, and the loathsome debt collectors would disappear from his life. He would be left with the extra money and pity from people as a poor man who lost his wife in an accident. Just thinking about it made him hum and dance. 500 million won, 500 million won, I trust you. The jingle of kidney money that he detested so much was now turned into a 500 million won song that he sang joyfully. Tomorrow was already the date of the trip Minwon and Sumin had spontaneously selected. They'd already hired a caregiver for Jaeok for the week. As a thank you, Sumin sliced some fruit and brought it over to the patient's bed, who had introduced them to the caregiver. These are for you, she said. Oh, you didn't have to. Thank you. The patient was just craving something after dinner, so she happily accepted the plate. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have found a caregiver for my mother-in-law. I only have this right now, but I'll bring you back something tasty from my trip. You don't have to worry about that. Forget about it and just get some rest. The patient waved her hand and picked up a slice of apple to chew on it. Another patient from the next bed snuck over and sat down. You're lucky. The person she called for you is even better than a doctor. Better than a doctor? How's that? Suman asked. Strangely enough, stroke patients get much better when she comes by. Their faces start moving and their words get clearer. She was fully booked until next year, but there was a sudden cancellation and she booked it for you. There were bound to be rumors like this among patients that have been hospitalized for a long time. Exaggerated rumors like how a certain doctor could make patients better, how doing as someone said would make them healthier than before their illness, how cooking some specific dish would make even a slouching granny walk straight, things like that. No way. How can a caregiver fix something a doctor can't? That's why she's amazing. Anyway, don't worry about a thing and have a good trip. Your mother-in-law will walk over and greet you two when you come back. As they finished the plate of apples, the two patients kept chatting about the rumor that was so ridiculous it could make anyone scoff. But Suman could not eat a single slice of apple. Her mind was racing. It must be some bullshit these lazy housewives gossip about, she kept telling herself over and over again, but their chatter didn't leave Suman's mind. It was nighttime already, and everyone was getting ready for bed. Like the other guardians, Suman returned from mindlessly brushing her teeth and sat back down. She felt dazed as she thought about finally escaping this wretched hospital ward tomorrow. But it was mixed with her anxiety about what might happen while she was gone. What if the caregiver comes and my mother-in-law really recovers? What if she starts talking? Should I stay? I won't go on the trip. No, why should I? I'm sick of this. I want to get out of here and eat yummy food. If I'm stuck in the hospital forever, Minwon might get together with Jiwon again. Her thoughts rattled along like an old train connected one after another. How long do I have to do this? Until that bitch dies? Why won't she die? I would have just bit my tongue and killed her myself. Excuse me. The nurse broke her train of thought. Suman quickly got up and opened up the curtain. Yes? It's time for her shots. Oh, right. It was the nurse who Suman had gossiped about her friend to, saying that she was a bitch. The nurse carried in a stainless steel tray full of IVs and syringes. She changed Jaeok's IV to a new one, lifting her syringe. I'm going to give her the shot now. It might ache a little. The nurse inserted the needle inside the IV with skilled hands. The liquid that filled up all around half of the long, thin syringe followed slowly into the IV. Suman's gaze locked onto the nurse's hand, or more like the syringe in her hand to be exact. Here's the next one. The nurse put down the empty syringe and picked up a new one. Suman's eyes were still glued to the empty syringe. I added more of the hypnotic since she has trouble sleeping at night. She'll rest easy tonight. Oh, thank you. The nurse pushed the last of the liquid inside the IV and cleaned up her tools. She also checked if Jaeok was bedsore and whether her hands and feet were still stiff. As she did, the nurse didn't realize an empty syringe had gone missing. Thank you. Have a good one, Suman said to the nurse as she smiled kindly. Her bright, innocent smile changed into a chilling smirk when the nurse left. Suman turned to face Jaeok, then went back to normal quickly. You're going to get a good rest tonight. That's good. Yeah, it's better to use a hypnotic if she really can't sleep well, a lady around Jaeok's age said, offering words of comfort from the window. The day was ending in the hospital ward. The TV that played soap operas all day and the fluorescent lights lining the ceiling were all turned off, except the 6 tiny closed curtains. The occasional whispers or stifled coughs could be heard. Suman kept her eyes sharp, staring off into the distance and waiting until those sounds disappeared. The moon was waning. When Suman was certain everyone was asleep, she stood up, slowly, very slowly. In one hand, she held the empty syringe. It was completely dark with only a slight amount of moonlight soaking through. Within that darkness, Jaeok's eyes snapped open suddenly and looked at Suman. Mm. Oh my, are you awake again? Suman uttered words of concern while her hands inserted the needle of the syringe into the IV. Jaeok's eyes widened in fear and tears started forming. Shh. You'll be asleep soon. A long bubble of air started flowing down the IV. Suman clamped her hand over Jaeok's mouth so she would stop making her more noise. She bent down towards her ear. I can't keep doing this anymore. The living have to move on. Suman's whisper was softer than her breath, but Jaeok heard every word. Just move on a little early, after all. The air bubble reached the back of Jaeok's dry, frail hands and disappeared into her blood veins. You were going to die anyway, Suman whispered, her last words, and lifted her head. The moonlight cast a shadow over her angelic, smiling face. And that's the end of chapter 111. Girl really is a murderer. Because it was supposed to be Minwon, but she done killed his mama. Okay. I mean, we knew they were crazy, but geez, this is just disturbing. That was so unnerving to read. Both Minwon preparing his murder and Suman actively murdering her mother-in-law. And to think there are seriously people that do this stuff in real life. How the heck does even one manage to get to this point? I couldn't tell you. Knowing that Minwon is fully planning on killing Suman gives me goosebumps. Jiwon's murder might have been accidental, but this is far much worse. I thought they'd burn each other into the ground, but Suman might just take him down with her on her way out. See. I knew they were evil, but these two are far out there. How delusional does one have to be to blame everything on others, take no accountability whatsoever, then turn right around looking for help or a quick pick-me-up, just for them to turn into a huge baby when things don't go their way, and without hesitation take it out on others without even giving it a second thought. A pack of delusional rats who deserve nothing more than the scum of the earth and each other. Yeah. That comment is perfect. And that's the end of chapter 111. If you've been liking my videos, don't forget to subscribe. If you like this video so far, give it a like and comment down below what you predict's going to happen in the next 5 chapters. And I'll be back with chapter 112. Notice of Death, Minwon Park. And we're back with episode 112, Notice of Death, Minwon Park. Why can't I fall asleep today? It had only been a few seconds since she turned, but Jiwon already turned over to her other side. She had no idea how long she had been tossing and turning like this. It was a night where she was super envious of Pang, curled up like an Annamite and sleeping away peacefully. How are you sleeping so well? She quietly reached out with her fingers to touch the cat's soft fur. It made her feel better, but she was still wide awake. She tried taking a lower body bath, drinking more milk, and even lighting a candle to help her sleep. So there was only one more solution remaining. I need some alcohol. There were a few canned beers left in the fridge. She chose one and was about to tiptoe back to her room when she ran into a huge shadow in the dark that scared her to death. The shadow turned the light switch on. Jiwon frowned at the bright light. You scared me! Where'd you come from? I was behind you the whole time. Ji-hyuk picked up the fallen beer can and turned it front and back. Why are you drinking at this hour? I can't fall asleep. At Jiwon's words, Ji-hyuk looked at the clock on the wall. It was 3 a.m. This was a dangerous time for office workers to be awake. I wonder why. Ji-hyuk put the beer Jiwon picked up back into the fridge and closed the door. Hey, I was going to drink that. Drinking because you can't sleep is a very harmful habit for your body, Ji-hyuk said seriously. Jiwon felt guilty. It was the same feeling people had when the dentist asked, why did you wait so long to come in? It's not a habit. I just couldn't fall asleep tonight, so I thought I'd have a drink is all, she said. There are other ways. I tried them all. I drank warm milk, took a lower body bath, lit a candle, and even pet a cat. But look, Jiwon pointed at her shining eyes using her index finger. I'm not sleepy at all. Ji-hyuk bent down a little and looked into Jiwon's eyes. Naturally, Jiwon ended up looking back into his eyes. The black and white contrast of his eyes was very clear, so it made them seem more cold and sharp. That's how it looked when she didn't know Ji-hyuk very well. Up close, Ji-hyuk had very pretty eyes that contained a little darkness and a weak tremor. After a while, Ji-hyuk opened his mouth to speak. A low and thick vibration tickled the bridge of Ji-won's nose. You're going to look at me like a beast again when I say this, he said. Let's sleep together. Hey, stop trying to sneak up on me. Ji-won glared right away. It was the reaction Ji-hyuk expected. We won't do anything. Let's just sleep. For real. That means I'm the only one not doing anything, not you. I won't this time. Ji-hyuk gently pulled Ji-won into his arms. Ji-won leaned into his broad, warm embrace, drinking in his scent. She thought that she might be able to fall asleep like this. You promise? We'll just go to sleep? I promise. Ji-hyuk had to promise her several more times before he was allowed into the forbidden zone known as Ji-won's room. It wasn't as artificially clean or tidy as Ji-hyuk's room. There were cotton pads used from the last night rolling on the vanity, and Pang's fur was all over the covers. He was even stepping on a few strands of hair on the floor. She's so tidy when she works in the office. Ji-hyuk's heartache at discovering Ji-won's unexpected hidden flaw. It was a jarring realization. He didn't know someone could be cute enough to make his heart hurt. I'm not usually this messy. I just got off work late yesterday, so I didn't have time to clean. Ji-won saw how Ji-hyuk had frowned and knew he was in danger of a heart attack due to excessive cuteness. She quickly uttered her excuses while she threw the cotton pads into the trash can. It's not messy at all, he said. You were frowning just now. That's because you're too cute, Ji-won. My heart was hurting. Ji-hyuk took Ji-won's hand and placed it over the left side of his chest. His strong heart really was beating fast, as if it was about to burst out of his chest. It felt like his heart was beating on the outside of his body. Do you have heart disease or something? It sure feels like it. Chuckling, Ji-hyuk lifted Ji-won into the bed and took his place beside her. Once there were two tall people and one cat lying down, the queen-size bed felt quite full. But it wasn't uncomfortable at all. She could hear a heartbeat near her ear. Ji-won closed her eyes and listened closely to the sound. Then she remembered something she wanted to ask. Ji-hyuk? Yes? Ji-hyuk fiddled with Ji-won's hair using his big hands. What were you thinking when your heart stopped? She asked. The man who experienced death hesitated for a moment before answering truthfully. I thought of you. I thought if there were a next life, I wanted to see you happy. No way! Ji-won wasn't displeased, so she giggled out loud. Ji-won is laughing in my arms. If this were a dream, he wanted to die in one like this. Happy. Nothing would be better than if time stopped right now. Ji-hyuk wanted to squeeze Ji-won tight, but he chose to give her a light kiss instead. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? Ji-hyuk regretted it as soon as he asked. He couldn't believe he made Ji-won remember that moment. I wanted to live. Ji-won didn't seem surprised or hesitant as she replied plainly, even if it was that kind of life, I didn't want to live. From that moment, it wasn't Ji-won who was so heartbroken that they couldn't breathe, but Ji-hyuk. He silently adjusted his embrace around Ji-won, caressing her hair. The irregular rise and fall of her shoulders became smaller. Then peacefully, after a short while, Ji-hyuk was a better remedy for her inexplicable insomnia than alcohol. Ji-won fell fast asleep, just like that before waking in the early morning because of the vibration from her phone next to her ear. What woke Jiwon was a short text. Notice of death, Minwon Park. Wait. Oh, okay, so Minwon is dead, right? What about his mom? Or, I don't, okay. Minwon slept spread out on the couch in the living room, sloppily. The leftover delivery food and bottles of liquor from yesterday rolled around haphazardly on the table. They were the remains of a private party he had last night, celebrating his new life. Abracadabra, make my wish come true. His phone rang loudly from the corner of the couch, but Minwon couldn't hear it as he snored away. Then the sound from the cell phone stopped, and the landline next to the TV started ringing loudly. What the hell? Minwon grunted in frustration and used the cushions on the couch to block his ears. No matter how much he blocked it out, the phone would not stop ringing. Minwon gave up on his sleep and crawled over to pick up the phone. Hello? Why aren't you picking up the phone? Chae-hol shouted desperately over the phone. Dad? Minwon rubbed his eyes, looking at the clock on the wall. It was 3 a.m. It was not the time for his dad to call. Dad, what's going on? Get over to the hospital, quick, right now. The hospital? Your mother is... She's... Chae-hol could not continue speaking as his voice trembled roughly. Minwon felt his drunken stupor from a couple of hours ago was going away. He grabbed the phone and asked again, What's wrong with Mom? Did her condition get worse? Your mom? His father seemed to be driving. He must have opened a window because the loud noise from the draft could be heard over the phone. Your mom is dead, you ungrateful bastard! Is this a dream or is this reality? Am I in a nightmare right now? Minwon violently shook his alcohol-soaked head. The smell of cigarettes in his hair evaded his nose, and he felt like throwing up. Hello? Minwon? Startled by the loud noise, Chae-hol called out to his son. Minwon had thrown up several more times before he could wipe his mouth and answered. I'm okay, Dad. I'll be right there. His head was spinning and he felt quite queasy. Minwon used the corner of the TV stand to stand up as he staggered and took his car keys. He found his cell phone on the couch and put it in his pants pocket. Only a few hours ago, he'd been drinking by himself, dreaming of his new life. And now his fuzzy mind was filled with nothing but thoughts of how he had to get to the hospital. It was early morning, still closer to nighttime. The roads were empty. Minwon ignored all the signals and slammed down on the accelerator. You're not dead, right, Mom? I know you're not. I'll be right there, so... The white, mid-sized car drove towards Songsan Bridge. Minwon spotted the truck ahead of him and stepped on the brakes to slow down. Huh? But the car did not slow down. This was reality. He had broken the brakes himself last night. He had rushed out half drunk and forgotten all about it. He had the back of the truck right in front of his nose now. It was all real. Damn it! Minwon turned the handle at the last minute. The car that couldn't stop slid just like that, crashed into the railing at a fast speed. The car that couldn't stop slid just like that, crashing into the railing at a fast speed. Ah! Crash! With an ear-splitting sound, a small fire started rising from the engine room that was crumpled like a piece of paper. He felt an intense pain in his right arm that was holding the steering wheel. The bone was broken from the impact. Minwon rushed to take off his seatbelt, but he had to use his left hand. It kept slipping because he was trembling so much. Fuck! Come on! Come on! He hollered furiously like a madman. He pulled desperately at the seatbelt. He must have pressed the button at some point because the belt came undone with a clicking sound. At that moment, bang! Something exploded under Minwon's feet where he had uselessly pressed down on the brakes. Gah! A crimson flame traveled up his leg. Help! Ah! A terrible pain, powerful enough to forget about his broken arm, came over his lower body. Minwon rolled out of the car to the side with his legs on fire. Gah! It's hot! Ah! The dark water of the Han River was flowing under the broken railing. To Minwan, who was going crazy from the monstrous pain and fear, the Han River looked like the stream of life that could put out these flames. Bang! The car exploded completely. At the same time, Minwan mustered up his remaining strength and threw himself over the Seongsong Bridge. Ah! Splash! Instead of the flames, the ice-cold water from the river swallowed Minwan up. His body sank quickly. Minwan tried to use his left arm, the only part of his body that was fine, to swim up from the water. But the more he tried, the more surface got further and further away. Eventually, even the faint light faded away. Minwan's last breath became a large bubble. It scattered into the dark river like jellyfish. His lungs filled with water instead of air. The blue phone he'd matched with Jiwon slipped out of his pocket of his limp body and sank among the debris. I want to live. That was the last thought. Just as a light going out, his body stopped functioning. Damn. That's kind of, it's funny though. I'm sorry. It's funny. It's fucked up, but it's funny. Early this morning, a car that was driving frantically crashed on the Samsung Bridge, on the bridge railing, and exploded. The driver, Mr. Park, fell into the Han River. His body had been set on fire, and he died on the spot. The autopsy revealed he was driving under the influence, with the alcohol level in his blood at 0.26. The world was too vast and too busy. In that world, a man who got drunk by himself and fell to his death passed by as a single line in the newspaper. An accident due to driving under the influence. Out of all the comments left below the concise article, no one felt sad or sympathized with Minwan's death. Did he think he was filming Fast and Furious or something? Crazy bastard. LOL. Thank God no one got hurt. Whatever the case was, it's sad to hear about this morning. Nothing but thoughts and prayers. Well then, peace. Smiley face. Damn. Poor Sangsong Bridge. Sad face. I think the damaged railing should be fixed using that asshole's insurance money. Do you get insurance for dying in a DUI? Amidst the sudden debate about insurance, someone made a clear point. That's almost like suicide, though, not an accident. How could there be insurance? I'm glad he died on his own. Kudos. Damn. And that's the end of chapter 112. Let's see what the top comments. I'm sorry. Minwan dying like that is funny as fuck. Like, bro, you should have just rolled on the ground. Both your legs are fucked up. Your arm is broken. And you got one good arm. You think you're going to be able to swim? But I do want to say, he died in the Han River like Ji-hyuk did. And like Hugh Yeon almost did because of Yura. So I feel like that's 2 deaths. And I think that covers Jiwon and Ji-hyuk. And I feel like they should be fine now. I honestly do. But let me see what some of the top comments are. Jaehyuk was killed by Sumin, similar to how Jiwon was killed by Minwan in a past life. And Minwan drowned just like Ji-hyuk did. So our protagonists are safe from fate. Thank you. That's what I think too. So he's dead due to his own actions as he ended Jiwon in the past life and tries to kill Sumin in this life, only for the trap to snap him up instead. Those who saw misery receive it back 10 times. Those who sow misery receive it back tenfold. Yup. Okay. Minwan set himself up for this, but even then, those internet comments are too cruel, but maybe that's realistic. I think they were very realistic, honestly. Imagine what a painful death. Lost his mother and also died the same day. Do I feel sad? Because he deserves it for planning to kill another person after killing Jiwon. What goes around comes around. Now it's remaining Sumin. She committed murder twice. I hope her death will be more painful. She kind of did. Because if she wouldn't have killed his mom, he wouldn't have rushed off to the hospital. But you never know. Both of them could have died in that wreck where he was just expecting Suman to die. You never know. Because the lighter played a pivotal role and his ass didn't pick it up. So if he was driving and he had his seatbelt on, well, I would hope Suman would have hers on too. Like, what was he going to do to ensure she died and he stayed alive? Because if he was driving and, yeah, Suman died and they hit something, that lighter still would have went off and he would have burnt up, right? If he wouldn't have got out in time. But anyways, I guess Suman is technically taking Minwon's fate from their last life where he was charged with manslaughter. Though I guess here it would be premeditated murder. It still counts as fulfilling the fate of killing someone. Yeah. All right. So that's the end. If you like this chapter, I know it's fucked up, but leave a flame emoji or a cigarette, either one. And I'll be back with chapter 113. Jail time approaches. And we're back with chapter 113. Jail time approaches. Jiwon stared intensely at the text message on her phone, informing her of Minwon's death. Usually she felt a little sad even when she read about the death of a random person in the news, but now she felt nothing. If this is someone's fate, Ji-hyuk spoke quietly behind her, I hope it's yours, not mine. Jiwon realized he didn't get any sleep at all again. Ji-hyuk always stayed up during the night whenever they shared a bed together, fidgeting with the ends of Jiwon's hair in case she woke up. What if the remaining death comes for you, she asked. Then I'll be happy you're safe. Ji-hyuk will die? Thinking about that created a lump in her throat. Pain surged up from her chest. Jiwon reached her hand behind her to touch Ji-hyuk's face. She felt his breath and his eyes blink. It calmed down enough to stop herself from crying. I guess it would be better if you died. It hurt this much, just imagining this man's death. How had the Ji-hyuk from the previous life endured this pain that would have been 1,000 times more painful? Suddenly the phone in Jiwon's hand vibrated briefly. A second notice of death has been texted to her. Notice of death, mother of Minwon Park. What? Jiwon sat up in surprise, more shocked than she had by the notification of Minwon's death. Jae-ok Kim, the mother of Minwon Park. She was the kind of mother-in-law who'd made Jiwon wonder if she went to sleep thinking about how to torment Jiwon the next day. Even as she went through minor illnesses, she was incredibly fit. She would visit Jiwon while she was fighting cancer at least once in a couple of months. You sure are living the best life, aren't you, Lucky? Aren't you lucky? How can you eat while you neglect your husband like this? No need for chemotherapy. Just leave us peacefully. The faster you go, the sooner my son can remarry. She would say other hurtful things and leave happier than ever. Jiwon's married life might have been less of a hell if she hadn't had a mother-in-law like her. Perhaps she wouldn't have gotten a terrible illness like cancer. Ji-hyuk. Jiwon handed over the phone to him. Death went to someone I wasn't expecting at all. Justice will prevail, or what goes around comes around. The mother-in-law who pressured her daughter-in-law to have a son until she got cancer died in a hospital. The husband, who considered his dedicated wife's death as a way of getting life insurance, also died. The father-in-law, who knew everything but ignored it, saying he didn't care, lost all his family. Ji-hyuk silently closed the phone and put it to the side. Jiwon pet the sharp bridge of his nose and put her fingertips and asked, What happened to Minwon after I died? The world after I died. Jiwon was finally curious about it. I only know parts of what happened. Ji-hyuk pulled out the memory he didn't want to remember and answered. I know he went to jail. I really recommend not looking. We tried to recover as much as we could, but the doctor who'd performed the autopsy trailed off. He was clearly worried about the small, frail, and haggard-looking Suman. Suman started sobbing next to Chehol, who was halfway in a daze. Still, I need to see him. What if he's not him? What if it's not him? She sniffed, hiccuping again. What if they have it wrong and he's alive? People looked with pity at Suman, who cried so hard she collapsed onto the floor. There was even a soft-hearted nurse who turned her head to secretly shed some tears. The ID, license plate, blood, and fingerprints all match with the deceased. It might be best to keep the memory of your husband when he was alive and well. At the doctor's words, Suman started wailing even louder inside the morgue. That's not fair. It hasn't been a day since my poor mother-in-law passed away. And now Minwan too? She sobbed. How will I live? Take me too. Minwan, I want to go with you and mother. Suman seemed determined to follow the deceased as she slammed her head onto the wall. When her head snapped back, she collapsed. Miss Suman? Surprised, the doctor helped Suman up and shouted, Bring the bed! Send the patient to the emergency room! The entrance to the morgue was bustling. Suman was laid on the bed by the nurse and sent to the emergency room. The role of checking the body was left to Chehol. As soon as she got to the emergency room, Suman carefully opened her eyes. She hadn't passed out in the first place, so it was easy to time it just right. If his body is in that bad of a condition, I shouldn't have to look at it. Suman gingerly pulled herself up when the doctor asked, Are you all right? I felt dizzy for a moment. It's a common symptom when you've received a great mental shock. Would you like to be tested just in case? No, please give me an IV so I feel less dizzy. A thick needle pierced through her wrist. The glucose solution dripped down at an even speed and traveled down the IV into her veins. Suman spent her time relaxing. She hadn't done this in a long time while she watched it. Her husband was dead, but she wasn't sad at all. In fact, she felt free. Now she didn't have to listen to those annoying rants about sons, meals, money, all of it. She would never have to worry about Minwan and Jiwon getting back together. Now that her shallow love for him had vanished, obsession and need were all that remained. The death of Minwan meant so little to Suman. Oh, right. Suman's eyes were halfway closed when they were suddenly snapped open. This is not what I should be doing right now. She had to text everyone a notice of his death so she could get condolence money. However, Minwan's phone had either burnt up with the car or fallen into the river with him because it was nowhere to be found. She had to find the contact list backed up on his laptop to send the texts. She had to take care of his other documents while she was out and about too. Suman took out the IV and headed straight home. As soon as she opened the front door, a foul scent resembling a garbage dump invaded her nose. She squeezed her nose by reflex, looking around, and noticed what a pigsty it was in there. Who's supposed to clean all of this? There was a pile of dishes, dust, and trash rolling on the ground, delivery food utensils that weren't returned, and vomit that was drying and rotting on the floor. Looking at this, Suman felt more than free. She was glad he died. Suman didn't want to step on something disgusting, so she tiptoed her way to the study. The password on Minwan's laptop was still Jiwon's birthday. Her mood turned worse. Why didn't you take Jiwon with you? What a fool. Thankfully, the contact list from his phone was still backed up on his laptop. Suman sent out the notice of his death and started rummaging through the house. Found it, his bank account. She opened the account with a beating heart, but only found the 100,000 won was written inside. Disappointed, Suman put the account in her bag and opened the envelope she'd found deep inside the study. The certificate of insurance! Bingo! Suman squealed with joy. How much will it be? The wife gets it, right? It's life insurance, so in addition to the house deposit, it has to be enough for a small shop. Suman's eyes widened when she opened the envelope. 5? 500 million won? She rubbed her eyes, but it was still 500 million. Suman quickly clamped her hand over her mouth as a shout of happiness erupted from her. She quickly looked over the insurance certificate. Now she was able to see the words she'd missed after her initial shock. Contractor, Minwon Park. Person insured, Suman Jeong. Next to Suman's name was her stamp on it. She didn't even know where her stamp was. Beneficiary, Minwon Park. Without guarantee, 300 million won in case of 80% illness or injury, 500 million in case of death. The date it was signed was very recent. Suman quietly put the document back inside and opened the other thick envelope. The contents were printouts of something on A4 paper. As she flipped through pages one by one, Suman fell into a deeper shock than she discovered the insurance. That bitch! All the texts she'd sent to that woman who was pretending to sympathize, to be kind, and to be friendly were there. Suman felt her legs go weak from betrayal. She felt so angry that her lips started trembling and tears formed around her eyes. Immediately, Suman took out her phone and called that woman. Even though they had texted each other a lot, it was the first time she was trying to call her. You better pick up, she said, or else I'm going to chase you to the ends of the earth and end you. Suman ground her teeth loudly. When the call went through after a long time, all she heard was an automated message. The number you have reached does not exist. Crazy bitch! Suman threw down the printouts that were in her hand. You said you were my friend. She was totally playing me, you fucking bitch! Suman stomped on the printouts, then tore them apart. They scattered on the ground like snow among her own tears. Why is no one in this world on my side? What did I do wrong? Suman collapsed on the floor, sobbing hysterically as she clenched one of the printouts. You all are bitches. You'll be punished. You'll get what's coming to you, you fucking bitches. She is so funny. What did you do? There's a lot you've done wrong in this world, girl. First of all, murdering somebody. At the top of the list, faking a pregnancy, bullying somebody basically their whole lives because you're jealous, and being a bitch. Okay. But are you really going to go inside? Hugh Yeon asked as she pulled on Jiwon's arm. She was dressed in black clothes and shoes just like Jiwon was. I came all this way, right? Jiwon had to come here, just like you gaze coldly at me in my last moments. I have to look at you the same. You're a saint, you know that? Hugh Yeon said. You don't need to come in, just wait outside. I didn't come because I wanted to. I came just in case that girl tried anything. Hugh Yeon grumbled and reluctantly followed along. Jiwon found Minwon's funeral and went inside without hesitating. Even though it was nighttime, when usually there would be the most guests, the funeral was empty. Only a few adults who looked like relatives were sitting in the corner drinking soju and eating beef. The friends who used to get hammered with Minwon all the time were nowhere to be seen. The great friendships he always bragged about with them must have just been shallow. Suman sat staring at the funeral portrait when she felt a presence and turned around. Her eyes traveled up Jiwon's legs and landed on her face. Jiwon? Glaring daggers, Suman jumped up. Why are you? Excuse me? Hugh Yeon stepped in front of Jiwon and crossed her arms. What are you trying to do at a funeral? Can't you see we're here to burn incense? Fuck off before I hold your funeral, Suman spoke through gritted teeth before she glanced behind Jiwon and suddenly collapsed to the floor. How can you show your face here? We used to be friends. Whose fault do you think this is? How can you? Jiwon checked behind her. Since Minwon was their ex-coworker, assistant manager Huang and a few others dressed in black were coming inside. Among them, a big, shiny head was especially noticeable. What's Parbo doing here? Hugh Yeon whispered to Jiwon. Yeah, right. Jiwon wondered as she stood aside. Suman started crying louder and whining as more of the staff came inside. Because of you, He had such a tough time drinking every day. If you were going to lead him on, why didn't you just meet him? Then, even if I was sad, Minwon would have been better. And that's the end of chapter 113. This bitch. I want to smash her head in. But I'm happy Hugh Yeon's there. Our girl about to beat... Was she going to beat her up like she did Yura? Because that would be funny as fuck. What? Some of the comments. I think the best part is she doesn't get the insurance money since it wasn't him who was insured, and she doesn't even seem to realize the implications of it either. I thought Sumin was going to be killed by Minwon and he'd go to jail because of it, so I was really surprised that Minwon died in an accident because Sumin killed Jaeok. That nasty woman had it coming, and she's taking Sumin down with her. Gee, Sumin, I wonder what you did wrong and why no one is on your side. Jaeok, I want my sympathy back. I knew you were foul, but really, just evil. But don't fret, you and your precious Minwon have been reunited. Ugh. Sumin, baby, you need court-ordered therapy. Hopefully you get that in jail. She might not even get to jail. Let's see. At first, I felt a little sad for Jaeok, but seeing how she treated Jiwon, she deserved every bit of her fate. Yeah, agreed. Sumin's constant, wow, woe is me, lying nonsense, and her blaming Jiwon for everything is getting old. I'm happy Jiwon got the opportunity to see both Minwon and Sumin for the trash they were. Now it's time for Sumin to be locked up in jail forever, and for them to just not throw away the key, destroy it. So that's the end of chapter 113. I will say, this chapter was nuts. I don't get why Sumin doesn't realize that he had life insurance on her, not on himself. So the dad's gonna have to pay for the funeral, 2 funerals. That's crazy. Maybe he has life insurance on his son. But I'm pretty sure he ain't going to give her the money. If he did, he's not going to give her any money at all. She really thought she was about to be living scot-free. She's going to have a little... What would she even sell if she was to have a shop? I mean, I think it would do well if she was the only one in charge of it. But I would feel bad for her employees because I feel like she would bully them, especially if like customers like them more than her. But that's the end of chapter 113. Next up is chapter 114, Emergency Arrest. If you did like the chapter, or if you have been liking the video, don't forget to leave a comment about how you felt about this chapter, and subscribe if you've been liking all of my videos. And I'll see you soon. Bye. And we're back with chapter 114, Emergency Arrest. Oh, you got here early, Miss Kang. I still had to come over. Jiwon nodded slightly to assistant manager Hwang, who'd noticed her. No one could approach Sumin, who was crying near Jiwon's feet. That acting is just second nature to her, huh? Jiwon looked at Sumin sobbing on the floor like a spectator watching a show. But Hugh Yeon felt a little differently about it. I'm a pretty good actress myself. Hugh Yeon collapsed onto the floor and poked her eye slightly with her finger. Wah! She cried out, sobbing. The combination of her tall frame with her wailing as if the king had passed away was incomparable. Mr. Park, how can you just leave like this? Poor Sumin. What is she going to do? It's only been a year since she managed to get married. Wah! What is she going to do now? Sob. The guests going to other funerals paused at the loud ruckus and peeked inside. What the hell are you? Wah! Hugh Yeon shook off Sumin's hands that were now wrapped around her shoulders by flailing her limbs roughly. What is Sumin going to do? Wah! She's so upset. She's speaking nonsense. Poor Sumin. Wah! Even amidst the chaos, Hugh Yeon didn't forget to mention how ridiculous Sumin was. Sumin felt faint, so she left Hugh Yeon alone for now and ordered Jiwon in a small voice, "Take this bitch and fuck off. What kind of rude behavior is this at someone's funeral?" "I didn't think you knew the meaning of the word," Jiwon said quietly, unmoved. Sumin frowned. Hugh Yeon was still wailing while slamming the floor in a fit of sorrow, hard enough for it to crack. "How could you? You're heartless. A husband and his wife are forever. How could you go on your own? Wah! Take Sumin with you. You two loved each other so much. How could you leave her?" "Be quiet, Miss Yu." Finally, Jong-uk-oo stepped forward to save Sumin from becoming a spectacle. He walked over regally with his short legs and wrapped his arm around Sumin's shoulders. "You should calm down too, Sumin. Did you get anything to eat?" Sumin raised her head when she saw who was speaking to her. Her face crumpled up. "Can you remove this hand manager? Assistant manager." Feeling embarrassed, Jong-uk stuttered. "Huh? Sorry. Okay." Sumin ignored him and wiped her face using her hands. She wanted nothing to do with Gong-uk, who had gotten balder since she had last seen him. Slightly dejected, Jong-uk turned his attention back to Hugh Yeon. "Stop causing a commotion and leave, Hugh Yeon, or else I'm going to call the cops." "Wah! How can you kick someone out for crying at a funeral? Snap out of it. Poor Sumin." Hugh Yeon was just about to get more into her acting by wriggling her body when she frowned. There was something at the entrance. 2 police officers came glancing around. While everyone was looking at the cops, Jiwon studied Sumin. Usually when people were visited by cops, they asked what's going on or who they were looking for. However, the emotions that surfaced on Sumin's face were without a doubt nervousness and fear, and she was not pretending this time. "Is there a Miss Sumin Jong here?" the younger officer asked as he looked around the funeral. Sumin couldn't bring herself to step forward, so Hugh Yeon pointed at her straight away. "There she is!" "Oh, right." The cop took off their shoes and came inside. Jiwon saw Sumin clenching her fists under the long sleeve of the mourner's attire. "I'm Officer Yong-sung Kang from the Seoul Police Department." Sumin swallowed dryly. How can I help you?" "Could you come this way for a moment?" The police were treating her very firmly. Sumin did not lower her guard as she followed the 2 officers into the small room to the side. Seeing this, Jiwon snuck towards the door and listened in. "We have a few questions about the accident. Have you been inside the deceased's car recently?" After the officer had spoken, Sumin could be heard answering, "No, I was at the hospital the whole time nursing someone." "Then did the deceased ever mention anything about an issue with the car or anything like that?" "No. He drove that car to the hospital the day before the accident. Why are you asking me this?" The fear disappeared from Sumin's voice. She seemed relieved. "There were no skid marks on the street where the accident occurred. He was certainly drinking, but according to what was captured on the security camera, following the path of the car along with other details, we think the car's brakes might have been broken. What time did the deceased leave the hospital?" When the cops asked Sumin if Minwon drank often, if he was caught with DUI, whether the car had problems normally, and many other questions. "He drank a lot, but I'd never seen him drive under the influence. He always left his car behind when he knew he was drinking or called a designated driver service." Jiwon stopped listening in closely at this point. Quietly, she went outside to put her shoes on. "Let's go, Hugh Yeon. We're done here." Jong-uk's crew must have left already because they were nowhere to be found. Hugh Yeon chased after Jiwon, who hurriedly towards the elevator like someone who forgot something. "Did you hear what they were asking inside?" Hugh Yeon asked. "There were no skid marks. They were asking if the car had been broken." And she said no. Apparently, he drove the car to the hospital the day before the accident. "That is very strange." Hugh Yeon tilted her head in confusion. If there were no skid marks, that means he headed straight for the railing without stepping on the brakes. Even if he was drunk, he wouldn't do that unless he was trying to kill himself. The hazy assumption that Jiwon kept trying to erase, but kept thinking over and over as soon as she'd seen the notice of death revealed itself. In the previous life, Jiwon was murdered by Minwon. Ji-hyuk said Minwon had been arrested. If the method of death was the same, Sumin had murdered Jaeok, then the person who'd be arrested this time had to be Sumin. Suicide. Jiwon pressed her hand down on top of her left ribs. There was a throbbing pain like she'd been hit from the inside. What's wrong? Are you okay? Hugh-yeon looked worriedly at Jiwon, who had gone pale. I'm okay. I'm going to go to see Ji-hyuk. I'll call you later, Hugh-yeon. No, we're going to have dinner. We're not having dinner? We'll get something yummy next weekend. Promise. Okay, promise. Satisfied, Hugh-yeon linked her pinky with Jiwon's and ran towards the bus station. There's my bus. Bye! Get home safe. Jiwon waved until Hugh-yeon's bus was far away. Then she immediately took her phone to call Ji-hyuk. Hello? Ji-hyuk, can you come out right now? The funeral home. No. Jiwon turned her head and looked towards the White House hospital building. To Seoul Hospital. I need to know what kind of atrocity Sumin committed there. I'm so sick of this. Sumin stopped picking at her food and put down her spoon and drank cold water. She'd rather starve after having only dried meat, rice cake, and radish leaf soup all day. Plus, she'd lost her appetite since the cops had visited earlier that day. He drank a lot, but I'd never seen him drive under the influence. He always left his car behind when he knew he was drinking or called a designated driver service. The night before the accident, the security footage from the parking lot showed him seemingly fixing his car using a toolbox. Do you know anything about this? The car was not broken. If it was, Minwon would have mentioned it when he came to the hospital. It was the day before their trip after all. Sumin thought of the document she'd found. The insurance certificate said that if she died, then Minwon would receive 500 million won. The car had been fine the day before the trip. Minwon had done something to the car using a toolbox. 500 million won in life insurance. The only evidence she had was the fact that Minwon had worked on that car. The brakes were broken, and he'd gotten that insurance certificate. That was more than enough. She'd almost died by her husband's hand. What little remained of her love and remorse for Minwon vanished. She was left with nothing but chills. It would all make sense if that foolish husband of hers damaged the brakes, drank by himself, heard that his mother died, and then got in the car in emotional turmoil. A satisfied smile appeared on Sumin's lips. It's a good thing I made my move first. She didn't need to tell the cops all the details. It was better for them to think the car was broken, or it was a case of drunk driving. If it turned out he died while trying to collect life insurance by killing his wife, it'd be harder to get the money compared to a DUI. More than anything, something bothersome could happen during that kind of investigation, so she had to be super careful. Sumin, it's me. Are you inside? She heard someone calling from inside the room. Sumin realized whose voice it was and frowned. Are you still there? The voice asked. Open the door. I got you some stuff. She was not curious about Jong-uk, but she was curious about what he brought. Reluctantly, she opened the door, and Jong-uk eagerly sat down with several plastic bags in hand. You didn't eat, did you? I went inside to get these, and strawberry milk, too. The savory taste of chicken filled the air. There was Coke, radish, and even cake and strawberry milk for dessert. Sumin looked at the food uninterested and sighed. I don't need this. I have no appetite. Do you want something else? Tell me. I'll go get it. I told you I don't need it. Sumin, I'm sorry about last time. Jong-uk grabbed her all of a sudden. Gah! Jumping in surprise, Sumin backed away from him. Get out right now. Don't come looking for me again. Okay, I'll go now. Hurt by her cold behavior, Jong-uk's shoulders shrank as he left behind the food. Still, if you're having a rough time and you need me, call me anytime, okay? Oppa's leaving. Ugh, I feel like throwing up. Enough with that Oppa bullshit. Suman didn't even glance at Jong-uk as he left, but as soon as the door closed, she picked up a chicken leg. She thought she had lost her appetite, but she just didn't want to eat gross food anymore. I have to eat well since the burial is tomorrow. Since Chol took care of the funeral arrangements, Suman didn't have to do anything. Still, it wasn't easy following everyone around and crying her eyes out. The next morning, it was finally the day of the burial. Suman brushed her greasy hair because she couldn't wash it, tying it up as she followed the coffin. Her whole body was sore, and she ached from sleeping on a surface harder than the extra bed at the hospital for several days. However, it did help her look more haggard and pitiful with her pale lips. There were 2 coffins being buried today. Suman followed after them and cried more loudly than anyone else. My mother-in-law! My poor husband! Please take my husband out! Minwon! She kept crying until she felt tired, then started crying again when she had the strength. Even within Suman's life, filled with smoke and mirrors, she was in the middle of giving the performance of her life when, excuse me, 2 muscly men stepped inside and surrounded Suman. Are you Miss Suman Jong? Suman used her sleeve to rub her puffy and scratched face and raised her head. Yes? The 2 men exchanged glances and took out something like a card at the same time, showing them to her. They were police badges. We're the police. You're under emergency arrest as a murder suspect for Miss Jae-ok Kim. And that's the end of chapter 114. Finally, this bitch getting arrested. Got her. And so embarrassing at the funeral. Deserved. Hugh Yeon outperforming Suman. Top tier. We love Hugh Yeon. But let's see. Some of the top comments. Hugh Yeon is the best. Why did you leave her behind? Take her with you. Oh, yes. That part was so funny. Hugh Yeon is a national treasure with her underhanded jabs. Almost thought it was Ji Hyuk's men, but this is so much better. They probably have a video of her stealing the syringe and committing the act. I hope they do. Got arrested at the funeral. That fake bitch got herself exposed to everyone. Considered that ruined reputation dead. Well, looks like karma rolled up in a hell of a limo. I like it. Okay. Karma rolled up in a stretch limo, and I'm here for it. So that's the end of chapter 114. And stick around for chapter 115, Witness. If you've been enjoying the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know which chapter out of the 5 has been your favorite. I think this one has been the best. Hugh Yeon outshines Suman, trying to act like she's grieving after she tried to make Jiwon look bad. Suman did. Hugh Yeon said, hold my beer. I got this. And I'm happy that Suman looks like shit and everything is basically out of her control. But I'll see you in the next chapter. Bye. And we're back with chapter 115, Witness. The day before, Jiwon waited in the hospital lobby for Ji Hyuk. She could recall clearly how she had sat alone in the very spot of this hospital, fiddling with her phone as she waited for her test results. There was no guardian with her. Jiwon had taken the bus to the hospital by herself, heard the test results by herself, despaired by herself, and cried by herself. The cancer has already spread to your organs. Why did you wait so long to come to the hospital? Jiwon could not answer the doctor as he'd sorrowfully informed her of her terminally ill condition. How could she? She couldn't have said that the reason she came too late was because she had no money from paying her husband's debts, or that she couldn't even dream of an endoscopic examination because of the extra fees required at the annual checkup. She hadn't had insurance, so surgery was impossible. Minwon had known Jiwon was dying, but he'd hidden the existence of the life insurance he had signed up for. And that was not all. claiming loan sharks had come for him. He'd taken the savings from Jiwon's account and refused to give her money for the hospital fees. That's what happened. And now Minwon was dead and gone. The mother-in-law who'd said, "Then what about my son's meals?" As soon as she heard Jiwon, who was admitted to the hospital with terminal stomach cancer, was also dead, killed by the daughter-in-law who'd cooked all the meals as she had hoped for. Too many of Jiwon's thoughts and emotions were mixed up and lumped together like some kind of dark, abstract art. She wasn't even sure which sketch was motivating her. It just felt like she had to do this. Jiwon's gaze, which was blank as she looked forward, moved a little to the side. Jiwon? She saw Ji-hyuk doing what others would consider running in order to stand before her quickly. You got here fast. I was nearby, actually. Jiwon couldn't help but suspect he had been purposefully waiting for her close by. She had a hard time stopping him from coming with her to the funeral or sending Sinu with her. Ji-hyuk must have felt Jiwon's suspicion because he subtly looked elsewhere before turning his gaze back to Jiwon. By chance? By chance. Jiwon decided to act like she didn't know. Feeling relieved, Ji-hyuk sat next to her and leaned his head towards her. Feeling relieved, Ji-hyuk sat next to her and leaned his head towards her. Is there a briefing? There is. Jiwon also leaned her body closer to his. As the distance between the two narrowed, Ji-hyuk's earlobes once again turned into a pretty shade like a flower. Jiwon had to hold herself back from touching them. They didn't suit Ji-hyuk, but that was what made them cute. Ji-hyuk was foul, and his flower-like earlobes was precious. When are you going to brief me? Ji-hyuk turned his head slightly away, like he noticed her questionable look. I've been thinking. Jiwon felt embarrassed for no reason, so she fiddled with her earlobes instead of Ji-hyuk's. Minwon's mother, Sumin's mother-in-law, died here. Sumin had been looking after her ever since she fainted. Her condition hadn't improved at all. Then she passed away suddenly a few days ago. Whenever Sumin had texted her friend, she would often refer to Jaeok as someone who was going to die soon. She didn't even suggest in passing that Jaeok would recover. She was a hemphlymic patient, so I'm sure no one suspected anything, Jiwon said, but there has to be something behind this. We need to find it. Ji-hyuk listened to everything Jiwon had to say and stood up without hesitating. Let's go upstairs. Up where? To the administration office. Why? I'll tell you once we get there. He did not explain anything in detail. Ji-hyuk held Jiwon's hand casually and headed to the administration office. What's the name of the deceased? Jaeok Kim. Got it. Ji-hyuk turned the corner and entered the administrative office. He acted frankly as if he had been there before. I'm here to pay the overdue bill for a patient who used to be here. Her name is Jaeok Kim. Oh, her? The administrative employee had an uncertain look on her face, like she was feeling both sorry and relieved. She typed something on the computer. There are some leftover fees. What is your relation to the patient? I'm her relative. Ji-hyuk took out his card and handed it over to the staff member. I'll pay it in full. Jiwon quickly looked at Ji-hyuk, flabbergasted, but he looked nonchalant as he took the receipt and talked to the administrative staff. It's been bothering me that I never visited her at the hospital. Could you please tell me which room she was in? She was in Ward A, room 903. There's no new patient there, but her bed had all her belongings have been cleared out. I see. Thank you. Thanks to Ji-hyuk, they knew which room Ji-hyuk had stayed in, but how did he know the hospital bills were overdue? Jiwon followed Ji-hyuk out of the administrative office and asked immediately, how did you know? About what? That the hospital bills were overdue. Ji-hyuk walked silently towards the elevator and only spoke up quietly when they stopped in front of it. Just a feeling. Ji-won had a feeling he was lying again. Actually, it was something Ji-won could have expected when she thought back to the past. The reason Ji-won went home right before she died was because of the overdue hospital bills. But there was no way for Ji-hyuk to have known that. He shouldn't have known, because if you did, you would have been heartbroken. Aren't you coming in? Ji-hyuk turned back to her in front of the open elevator doors. Ji-won stared at him before reaching out with one hand. Yes, let's go. The hospital hallway was filled with a particular scent. It was what people called the disinfectant smell or hospital smell. Ji-won was used to it. Knock, knock. The smell of disinfectant grew stronger when they knocked softly on the door and opened it. It was a 6-person room where long-term patients usually stayed. Out of the 6 beds, one was empty and tidied up. Excuse me, could we ask you a question? Ji-won spoke politely to a middle-aged woman who met her eyes. Could you tell me which spot was Mrs. J.O. Kim's when she was here for a few days ago? It's the spot over there, the empty one. All the patients looked curious as the couple appeared out of the blue to ask about a dead person. Who are you two, and why are you looking for her? We're her relatives. We were overseas, so we hurried back, and we felt bad about not visiting her, so we came over to at least look at where she had stayed, Ji-hyuk answered. The patients nodded, understanding. You should have come sooner. Tisk, tisk. She was here until a few days ago. Her condition was bad the entire time, but she died all of a sudden in the middle of the night. Her daughter-in-law worked really hard. She nursed her all by herself. And she was discovered in the morning. It was so sad. Hey, Mrs. Chungnam, isn't that spot frightening? The patients all chattered away without being prompted when one of them made the comment to the patient right next to Jae-ok's bed. Mrs. Chungnam? Her home must be in Cheongnam. Ji-won looked at the chart on the bed and learned that her name was Min-sok M. Oh, yeah, a little. Myong-suk didn't seem pleased with this conversation. She roughly opened up her bed curtains. Just like the administrative officials had said, Jae-ok's spot had been cleared without a trace left behind, so they couldn't find anything. The patients around them spoke about Jae-ok's sweet daughter-in-law more than Jae-ok. What was surprising was that they said nothing bad about Sumin. They didn't gain anything useful in the hospital ward. Ji-won was about to turn back with Ji-hyuk when she noticed someone looking towards her. Between the slight gap in the curtains, Myeon-suk, the patient in the next bed, met eyes with Ji-won and quickly closed the curtain. She knows something. For now, Ji-won pretended not to notice and left the hospital room. The room was rowdy with talk about the strange couple after they left. There was nothing quite as fun in their boring lives as the hospital gossip. They should have come when she was admitted. What's the point of looking at a dead person's bed? They said they were overseas. Still, while her daughter-in-law was slaving away by herself, her husband never showed up and nobody visited her. Even the son who came here the one time is better than that. I heard he died in an accident on his way over when he heard the news. His poor wife. Myeon-suk, who usually would have eagerly participated in the gossip, kept her uncomfortable thoughts to herself and put on her shoes. The commotion would die down by the time she came back from a 30-minute walk. She didn't want to hear or talk about that mother-in-law and daughter-in-law anymore. I'm going outside for a moment, Myeong-suk mumbled, even though no one was listening. She went out to the hallway when a tall man appeared suddenly. Oh my gosh, she exclaimed. I'm sorry if I scared you. The man apologized, his voice deep. She raised her head. It was the man who'd come inside the room earlier. Myeon-suk dragged her Ivy along and moved to the side with an uneasy feeling. That's okay. Excuse me. Ji-won spoke to Myeong-suk quickly before she left. I was actually waiting for you because I wanted to ask you something. Do you have some time to spare? I have nothing to say. I don't know anything. Her excessively sharp, defensive behavior was confirmation that she did, in fact, know something. Jiwon made her voice as soft as possible and bowed her head. It won't take long, please. I'm telling you, I don't know anything. It's about Mrs. Jaeok Kim and her daughter-in-law. You were using the bed next to her in the same room. Myeon-suk's face turned pale. Her firmly clenched lips didn't seem like they were about to say anything. Ma'am, Ji-hyuk took out a white envelope from his pocket and handed it to Myeon-suk. When did he get that ready? Please. Among the long-term patients staying in the six-person room who wouldn't be having money trouble, with trembling eyes, Myeon-suk looked at the envelope filled with money, then at Ji-hyuk and Ji-won, and turned she spoke quietly. I think I saw it. Myeon-suk had always felt sorry for the new stroke patient. Actually, the patient seemed like she had a good life, so she felt more sorry for the daughter-in-law who was by Jaeok's side all day. Anyone would feel the same way when they saw how she took care of the patient's excrement with a smiling face while her mother-in-law's son and husband didn't even visit. But despite all her efforts, the patient did not get any better. Myeon-suk was worried the daughter-in-law might die sooner from working so hard. So when the daughter-in-law was thrilled that her husband was taking her on a trip, Myeon-suk was happy for her. All the other patients in the room adored her, so they worked together to find a caregiver for her mother-in-law. It was deep in the night, the day before the caregiver was supposed to come. Myeon-suk woke upon hearing a groan coming from the bed next to hers. It was something she usually heard around this time, but something felt strange today. Didn't the nurse give her a hypnotic earlier? Myeon-suk was more worried about the daughter-in-law's condition since she had to go on a trip tomorrow. She pulled her body up carefully so she wouldn't make any noise. She could hear the daughter-in-law talking in a quiet voice. Shh. You'll be asleep soon. Poor thing. Myeon-suk leaned her head out of the curtain, wondering if she could help in any way. At the same time, the moonlight, as bright as a streetlight, shined into the hospital room. Beyond the curtain, the patient lying in the bed and the shadow of the pitiful daughter-in-law moved. Isn't that a syringe? Myeon-suk rubbed her eyes, and when she opened them again, she could clearly see the daughter-in-law's shadow plucking the syringe from the IV and bending down towards the patient. The lip have to move. Her voice was so quiet it was barely audible. Myeon-suk stopped breathing and focused all her attention on her ears. A voice so small she wouldn't be able to hear it otherwise continued faintly. Going to die. Way. The daughter-in-law's shadow straightened up again. The patient was not groaning anymore. Myeon-suk quickly lay back down on the bed and spent the night breathless. It felt like the poor, lovely granddaughter-in-law was going to open the curtain at any moment and stick her head inside. Early the next morning, Jaeok Kim, the patient in the bed next to her, was wheeled out as a dead body. And that's the end of chapter 115. Suman thought her ass was going to get away with murder, huh? Let's see what some of the comments are. Suman is brave, but at the same time stupid as well. Brave enough to be a killer, but stupid in her actions. She cannot escape this time. So for all the ladies that want a devoted daughter-in-law like Skummin for themselves, tight slap in the face for y'all. Should have made sure to be quiet and unseen, no witnesses. Oh, poor lady, it's really frightening to see someone committing murder. Yeah. But that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed these chapters, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll be back. So, cause Suman's gotta get arrested. Minwon killed himself. That was his own stupidity. Suman was the catalyst for it, but he did that to himself. And Suman's dumbass thought she was about to get away with murder. Her ass is about to go to jail. And hopefully we get that part of it resolved in the next video. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day, morning, evening, whatever time of day it is that you're listening. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.